So let's talk about the Rate of Fall 5. This is the first Huddleston bait I fell in love with, and it's a bait I honestly don't throw as much as I used to. Now, it's got some very specific applications I do throw it, but just understand this bait almost has a Senko-like action when it falls. It'll fall almost perfectly horizontal at about that rate. Very slow sinking. I rig this bait with the same trap hooks that I rig my other baits with, and I tend to fish it mostly when I'm fishing points. And what I do is I throw it out and I'll give it a 5 to 10 count just to let it get down, and I slow roll this bait off points. And I fish uphill, just like out west. I put my boat on the bank, I throw out to deep water, and slow roll the bait back in. I typically do it on 25-pound P-line. Sometimes I'll throw it on 30, if that's just what I have rigged up, but 25 when I'm fishing points helps sink this bait down and get it down further. So the 5 has got its best application in my mind fishing points. Now, if I was fishing in a grass lake and I needed a slow-moving bait to get a bait over grass that was, submerged, let's say, you're fishing grass beds and the grass grows up to about 5 feet and the water's 8 feet deep. You've got some gap of water to kind of hover or suspend a bait over. That's where the 5 is going to shine. The key to the 5 to understand is that it moves. You can fish it so slow. That tail just wags, so lethargic. But it's the amount of time this bait spends in the strike zone or in or maybe even a lay down tree. You can fish it so slow that sometimes that's the key to triggering the bite. Now, it would be unfair for me to not speak to, this can be the most difficult of the Huddleston baits to actually hook the fish, right? The Huddleston 8-inch baits. The reason being, you fish it so slow that if you're not careful, you have to really put artificial almost momentum in your rod tip. I like to fish my bait at almost a 90-degree. I have the line coming off to a 90-degree from my rod tip, and I put an artificial almost pressure bend into the bait as I'm fishing it, and that's because there's such little momentum against your rod as this thing's swimming through the water. You can miss fish. They'll come up and pop it, and you don't have the momentum to set the hook. So if you pay attention, you put a little bit more momentum via your rod tip. If you load your rod tip up slightly with the Rate of Fall 5, you'll be doing yourself a favor as far as hookup ratios.